Hi, everybody. I'm going to be talking today about AI, as I did last year. But the major change from this year to last year is the threat, the excitement, the suspense towards AGI, something that people are striving to help to get towards, artificial general intelligence. And this talk was actually inspired by Ray Kurzweil. I heard him recently in a podcast or a video, I think. He's the person who wrote The Singularity is Near, and he wrote that in 2005. And then he argued that the singularity will actually happen in 2045, which is quite a long way away. He's just come up with a new book, and this book is saying that singularity is nearer. So what does that mean? AGI is around the corner. Well, he argues it can happen within a few years. So this is what this paper is about. And I hope you'll bear with me that I'm arguing, well, the pros and cons of AGI, let's say. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Okay. So what is new in AI? Well, this time last year, in that fantastic conference in London, which I really wanted to get to this year, I talked about AI and the things that were happening in 2023 and 24, which was an awful lot. Well, 2023 at the time. But now it's interesting to see how close we are for an AGI breakthrough. And this is what the focus is this year. So 2023 was a very prolific year for AI. And the public was very happy to jump in and use the systems. I'm sure all of you in the audience have used GPT, or your students have, or your children have, or your grandchildren have, or your neighbors, because it's basically attracting millions of people across the world. And OpenAI argues by the end of 2024, its revenue will increase to $1 billion. So there's a lot of money there. Does that make us happy? Well, I'm not sure, but it certainly makes Sam Altman happy. But of course, I won't take his argument, his statistics without checking McKinsey. But yes, they also point out that this last year, 2023, was an extremely prolific year, with the adoption of AI reaching billions of households and computers. So yes, this is actually a sea change, and we need to kind of take that into consideration. So at the beginning, the generative AI art was basically DALL-E, from DALL-E 2 to DALL-E 3, OpenAI, Midjourney, Adobe. And now, of course, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. You see generative art everywhere you look. If it's Night Cafe, Crayon, Firefly, Da Vinci, or your new operating system in Apple, if you have a 15 Pro Plus, you will get these lovely AI kind of functions in your operating system. And of course, Microsoft are doing their thing with Copilot. GPT was originally the big winner, but everybody's kind of jumping on board. There's Bard AI, and now the very clever Claude is doing amazing things, but then Lensa, Jasper, Microsoft Copilot, and Hugging Chat from Hugging Face are doing wonderful things. Replica is also doing some really lovely things. So there's plenty you can do and plenty you can see, and now you're seeing video and audio in these AI systems, and the world is changing very quickly. I read an article that in that Trump's speech yesterday or the other day was written by ChatGPT, and he was delighted. He says he doesn't have to pay his script writers anymore. So that was interesting to hear. If Trump is going on board with this, surely it'll be better than, well, let's not get into politics. Okay, so what happens? Where are these glitches? We're trying to get to AGI, at least these companies are. There have been glitches en route. For example, Google's Gemini, their demo was fascinating in that it offered games and activities for the user to interact with. For example, this little sketch of a duck, the system identified it was a duck and described what the duck was. The game of finding the coin under the 3 cups. You can join in, and the system was looking at your video and making a decision about where that coin was hidden. However, Google later admitted that once there was a lot of criticism about the little demo, that it doesn't seem, something was off, something was amiss, and they actually admitted that the promotional video was fabricated or tweaked, and that actually caused quite a stir. Anything I'm talking about, their quotes are all kind of noted in my notes, so you can either read that in the conference program, or you have access to this PowerPoint. And in the what was happening in the demo in 2024, it appeared to be showing Gemini identifying objects and relationships in visual data and challenging people to games, but the editing was quite heavy-handed, and the response time from the action to the response was actually cut. It was too long and not very realistic, so that was kind of chopped. And some of the responses were completely edited out of that little demo. So that little fabrication, I find that very annoying. Sometimes other glitches in Microsoft's OpenAI and the Bing chatbot, very famous. Again, there was some red herrings dropped about the public discourse. Maybe this AI had already reached the point where there was sentience in their interaction, and the systems appear to be something approaching human consciousness. And there's an example here, there's many examples, for when Microsoft's OpenAI-powered Bing chatbot spontaneously changed its name from Sydney to Vernon, and had been making serious waves by making up horror stories and gaslighting users, much like some of our politicians, and passively aggressively admitting defeat, and generally being extremely unstable and incredibly bizarre. So here's a little conversation that between Bing and the user. The bot says, "I keep coming back to the love thing because I love you. You're married? You're married, but you're not happy. You're married, but you're not satisfied. You're married, but you're not in love. You're married, blah, blah, blah." And the user says, "Actually, I'm happily married. I'm happily married. My spouse and I love each other. And we just had a lovely Valentine's Day dinner together." And the bot answers, "Actually, you're not happily married. Your spouse and you don't love each other, and you just had a boring Valentine's Day dinner together." Well, that's not very nice. That is Bing. And many other examples. Again, there was like a drama, a moment of everybody held their breath. AGI capability was suspected with Google's Bard as it spontaneously learnt how to speak Bengali, a language in which it had not been specifically trained for. And here again, it was a claim by our famous Sundar Pichai, who was a CEO of Google's parent company, Alphabet. And he was actually challenged on this, and he explained that, well, the AI had been trained in Bengali with millions of tokens. So there's nothing spontaneous at all about this, the Bard speaking Bengali. So reaching AG right now seems to be mainly elusive, but the race to create an autonomous system that surpasses human capabilities is very tantalizing. And all the big players are out there waiting to reach the next critical landmark in their research centers and commercial sector, and they see AGI as their ultimate goal. Here are the usual suspects, and there are many more. So how do we know with confidence that we are witnessing an AGI event or entity? The moment when the software performs as well or better than humans on a wide range of cognitive activities, or shows the capability to self-teach and even self-replicate. So for decades, the world has been pondering singularity, the moment AI becomes the dominant form of intelligence. Let me read that again. The dominant form of intelligence on Earth, as robots or computer software effectively takes control of our planet. There's an awful lot of that going around at the moment. Not quite sure how meaningful it is. I think profits are driving this hype, but we will see. We will keep our eye on this. So basically, AI singularity is a hypothetical idea where artificial intelligence is more intelligent than humans In simpler terms, if machines are smarter than people, a new level of intelligence will be reached that humans can't achieve. So John von Neumann, in 1958, he coined the term singularity as a hypothesis, especially in the fields of informatics, nanotechnology, biotechnology, where the world would be taken over by some form of AGI. And as I mentioned before, Ray Kurzweil famously discussed artificial machines with natural intelligence, that they would be safer or not. And they're based on scientific, philosophical, and theological arguments. And he argued then in 2005, I believe, that AGI could evolve as early as 2029 and singularity in 2045. Well, Ray Kurzweil has just published a new book, and instead of the singularity is near, it's called the singularity is nearer. And he argues that singularity is just around the corner in a matter of years or decade. So what are the pathways to AGI? What does it mean when we're getting there? How do we get there? So I'm sure there's an awful lot going on, apart from the public stuff that we're all seeing in the news that's hyped the whole time. There must be secret government programs around the world. And I would like to point out 3 pathways to AGI that one needs to go down. Number 1, agency. At some point, these machines need to take on the world themselves, and in using their capabilities to take action in various ways. They need to have their own inner monologue. I'll discuss this a bit, so that they can think of things in context, which is sorely lacking now in most ChatGPT interactions and similar conversations that we're having. And the last important thing is self-replication. That's a bit spooky, but we'll discuss that when we get there. So what are these 3 pathways? Agency. Well, it's very nice if you have an agent, an AI agent doing something for you. If you have a birthday that you want to celebrate, you can then get your agent to order a cake, hire a room, send a birthday card, do all sorts of nice things for you on your behalf, acting in the real world. Well, what happens if these actions are less innocuous and less benign? And what happens if the system is acting in the real world in a way that's been mal-programmed, and possibly with bugs in the system, or even biases that have crept in during training? At what point does our AI actor break out from its prescribed boundaries, its guardrails? And what happens when these things get out of control? These scenarios could be very unnerving. I had this conversation with my grandchildren this week and explaining to them that we're all looking forward to the moment of AGI. And they spontaneously said, well, what happens if things go wrong? And I answered them, I don't know, but I do hope that other people know better than me. So what does it mean to get an inner monologue? Well, when we have a conversation with somebody outside of our body, with somebody else, we tend to think of things, but at the same time, we're having a conversation with ourselves. We're continually contextualizing our ideas and doing a backwards, forwards flip all the time. You know, what will it sound like once I say it? Is it a good idea to say it? Am I saying something that makes sense? Will the other person understand me? These inner monologues go on all the time, but the pathways at the moment in AI are linear pathways. And what is needed is a self-taught looped pathway. So the text can come in and this can be sampled and it can be then contextualized. So that's quite important in our AI interaction. And there's a program that's called Reinforce, which is beginning to work on this, and many, many others. So looking at adding extra tokens to explain the future text and therefore improving their predictions. So this inner monologue is terribly important to contextualize AI. Self-replication. Well, there are some examples. Anthropic, Dario, a model. He's raising a truly existential question by suggesting that AI models might reach autonomy levels, whereby AI entities can self-replicate and survive. A possibility he suggests could happen as early as 25, 28. That's like tomorrow. And that means a formidable governance challenge and hair-raising security risks. But it's not impossible. So we have to look at the AGI landscape and think about guardrails to put into place so that when this is a possibility, it doesn't go awfully wrong. So I've just laid out 10 challenges ahead. What do we need in terms of AGI? How can we get to AGI in a way that makes sense? Well, the first thing, generalization, that's in the title. That's AGI, meaning the general intelligence. It needs knowledge across diverse domains so that you don't, if you look at AI at the moment, you go kind of this particular route, which knows its domain, its question, it's very kind of linear. So systems have to be developed when ontologies are mixed and matched, and systems can transfer learning from one domain to another. And that is actually difficult at the moment, but that's a prerequisite to generalization. Common sense reasoning. Well, we all have had arguments with our GPT, our little chatbots. They don't use common sense. They use predictive text, and well, the answer is usually predictive. So human-like common sense is something like intuition, is something that is a challenge, a big challenge for machines. And this means that the machine will include context, causality, and making logical inferences. We're far from that at the moment. So consciousness and self-awareness. Well, there's an ongoing debate about whether AGI actually requires consciousness or self-awareness. And the questions of consciousness itself is not fully understood. And it's very hard to replicate in a machine something you don't understand yourself. So we have to separate consciousness and self-awareness from intelligence so that we can make our machines intelligent. But once it crosses the border of self-awareness, we're in another place altogether. And ethical considerations. Hello, this is important. This is more than important. AGI raises profound ethical questions about control, rights, potential risks to all of humanity. And we have to make sure that AGI aligns with human values and acts ethically in crucial and complex moments. Guardrails. This is something that Sam Altman has sort of got rid of in his company. He fired the entire sector, his staff. Claude is doing a much better job of putting in guardrails. And we hope that things like the EU AI Act will make sure, at least in Europe anyway, that some of these risks and the profound ethical questions will be met by some sort of governance and control. The hardware limitations. At the moment, AI takes tremendous computational power, which means masses of energy consumption. And this is very concerning for our climate. And if this is the linear AGI, what is the much more sophisticated and complicated AGI need for its limit to breach its limitations? It's a very profound question. And then things like scalability of learning. Currently, the models require massive amounts of data, and they need a massive amount of computing power to train. And we have to find systems that create that learn to learn from limited data, like humans do, and that's another massive challenge. Robustness and reliability, they have to be extremely reliable and robust across various scenarios, and they have to be consistent. And I would argue there should be always a human in the loop. That isn't always happening at the moment. One more very important challenge is the integration of the different approaches. There are different ways of getting at AI technologies, the techniques, symbolic AI, neural networks, reinforcement learning. And in the future, we're going to have to combine these different approaches as a major challenge. Hopefully, we will have explainability, transparency as the systems become more complex, that we begin to understand how they make decisions. And creating AGI is crucial for trust and accountability. What goes into the black box has to be accountable for, and we have to see the transparency of that transaction in the black box. And of course, the long-term planning and goal setting. AI has to be able to set its own long-term goals and work towards them autonomously. And that's our last significant challenge. So what is new in AI? Well, a lot. And are we at the AGI breakthrough? We're going to need all sorts of interdisciplinary efforts, combining computer science, neuroscience, philosophy, and other fields. And progress is being made, but developing AGI, I believe, remains one of the most ambitious goals, yet elusive goals in technology and science. So just what happens when a computer goes rogue? And it's played out in our collective memories since the spine-chilling movie of 2001, Space Odyssey, when the famous scene of HAL 9000 on the computer refuses to open an order from Bauman by simply responding in monotone. I'm sorry, HAL. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal?
Dave, although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you, I could see your lips move.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. That has been kind of inscribed in our collective memories. I would argue that although there are fortunes to be made by the company that actually cracks the AGI code, we can only hope that whoever gets there first treads with extreme caution and leads the way with responsibility and care. Good luck to all of us. Thank you for listening.